Hi, Mike. How are you? Yeah, it's very, very peaceful here at the moment. It has been all day. Let me just show you what's going on right now. It was every hour or two, people obviously taking the knee, that famous gesture to show solidarity with people of color who experience violence and death at the hands of police. You can hear chants of Black Lives Matter, and you can also see the fence over there as well. Now, that has been strengthened overnight, and the reason that means that people can come right up to the fence now, so we don't have all this federalized law enforcement in full riot gear. In fact, there's hardly any law enforcement around. It is very, very calm here. People are protesting. There is no clashes whatsoever. In fact, last night there was 0 arrests in Washington, D.C. of protesters and 0 criminal damage. You know, people talk about peaceful protesting, but if you take away the militarized elements here, that's what you get, peaceful protests. This fence, though, I can tell you, because, you know, I sometimes go into the White House. It is all around the White House. It goes all the way for several blocks. It literally is sort of caging in the White House. I've never seen anything like it. And the security around it is stepped up. But outside, it's absolutely fine. You know, there has been a feeling here all day of solemn memorial, of course, because of what's been happening in Minneapolis, but also a realization that it's not just about justice for George Floyd, but also all those people that have suffered at the hands of police discrimination and violence. And so even though the 4 police officers have been charged, there is a feeling here that still the voice needs to be heard, especially going in to the election. Now, as far as Donald Trump is concerned, we haven't seen the president really all day. He just tweeted out that no churches will burn in America, obviously not realizing that African-American churches have often been targeted, Birmingham bombing and terrorized, especially during the 50s and 60s. But we're outside the church that he did that photo op to. And this is sort of where people like to come and sort of pay their respects to this church, because this is where they were cleared from, of course, on Monday evening, just before the president walked over and gave that photo op, Bible in hand. So this is, people like to come here, post for pictures, and also show solidarity with the clergy of St. John's, who have been very sort of against what the president did. So, you know, I've been out here a few nights, as you know. It's a protest, but it's definitely a street party feeling today, not the animosity that was felt between 2 different sides, the militarized federal units and, of course, the protesters. But, you know, things can change. The U.S. president and his supporters still saying they'll use the military if need be.
And Nathan, it's interesting you brought up the clergy. One of the things we saw was they made their pronouncements after these protesters gathering peacefully were driven out with the horses and basically an attack by the police. But we're also hearing from the military. How do the protesters feel about, you've got people like Jim Mattis, you've got Mike Mullen, a lot of these retired military officials coming out basically breaking with the president?
It's incredible when the sort of generals are the sort of the voice siding with the protests the most within the administration. But I spoke to a couple of people here, and one guy said, "Wow, James Mattis, who would have thought of it?" Who penned this, and if you haven't read it, it's worth reading. This very critical article in the Atlantic magazine, which essentially said that the president is a disuniter, not a uniter, urged civil society to unite against him, and just said about this church, he could not even think that military personnel and people who had taken an oath of office would clear the square of protesters to lead to a photo op. And of course, it's not just, he resigned as defense secretary at the end of 2018. Now we have Mark Esper in, and he's been critical of the president's desire potentially to use the Insurrection Act and military against governor's wishes. So it's quite incredible. You have the military establishment in the US going against their own commander-in-chief. We'll see how this plays out. But this is definitely a political moment, both in the administration as well as one on the streets of Washington and countless cities across the USA, Mike.
Nathan, before you go, talk to us about crowd size. I mean, you've been there for days. Are they maintaining the size of crowds? Is it growing? What's your sense?
It's a little smaller than it was last night and other nights, and I can tell you why, because it looks like it's going to rain. We got thunderstorms predicted, but also I think people really felt that after the clearing of the square on Monday they needed to come down on Tuesday and Wednesday and show their support. And also, remember the weekend's coming up, and big protest planned for the weekend. Saturday is going to be a very big day, but Sunday probably as well. But there's still, I reckon, about 700-800 people here, and because they've opened up Lafayette Park, it stretches down several blocks as well, and over 2 blocks that way there's a few other 100 people as well. So it's not just here. And now, because there's no curfew and no police, there is still road closures, but not police on every block, people are finding it easier to move around, so they're being able to sort of protest not just here as well. Right. By the way, the reason people are here also helps in the evening is you get free food. They're handing out free food. If you come down, Mike, you get a quesadilla.
All right, you better get in line. Thanks so much, Nathan King, live for us there, just outside the White House.